Thank you, Zoe. Good afternoon, everybody who is joining us. Welcome to today's session. We're really pleased to have you on this beautiful sunny afternoon down here in Kent, where I'm joining from today. My name is Elizabeth Nyawade, and I am Director of Workforce at St. George's NHS Foundation Trust in Southwest London. Really pleased to be with you today. As you're joining us, please share with us on the chat box who you are, where you're joining from today, and the one thing you're currently doing to look after yourself during this challenging time, and share that with all participants. It's really beautiful today down here, Zoe. Is it shining up where you are?
Yes, so here in Staffordshire today, it looks nice outside the window, and I can't wait to get out there later after this, what is going to be, I think, a fantastic session. So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to our session today. So hello, everybody. I can see there's Sophie, Helen, Amelia. We've got Faye, hello. So please do say hello. We've got Max with us, welcome. Say hello in the chat room. Where are you today? One thing you're currently doing to look after yourself during this challenging time.
You've been on holiday recently, Zoe. What did you do to look after yourself?
Oh, to look after myself, we had little day trips. We didn't actually do too much, which was beautiful. And we went to the beach. We went to Blackrock Sands in Wales, and you can drive onto the beach there. And we had a new puppy. So we took the puppy onto the beach, which was absolutely brilliant to watch. So that's what I've been doing to look after myself. It looks like Dee's been looking after herself today in the sun as well. Dee's in Coventry, looking after herself. She's and Zara's in sunny Leicestershire today. Zara's going to be helping us out today. So please do say hello in the chat box, and you can see on the screen here some ways that you can stay in touch. So we've got a mailing list. There's about 2,500 of you on the mailing list. We're on Twitter, and we're tweeting today on Caring for NHS People and Project M, and lots and lots of support on 2 websites that you can see on the screen there.
Thank you, Zoe. Paul, are we live on YouTube yet?
And if Zara has kindly put us live on YouTube.
Excellent. We'd just like to say hello to everybody who is joining us on YouTube as well. So welcome, everybody. As you're joining, please share with us in the chat box your name, where you're joining from today, and the one thing you've been doing to look after yourself during this difficult time, and share that with all participants. Welcome, Mandy from Birmingham. Oh, that's just recording. Right. Lots of you already sharing information on the chat box. Welcome and thank you. I believe we'll soon be kicking off, Zoe.
Yes, so thank you, everybody. And please do keep commenting in the chat box in both Zoom and YouTube. Tell us what you're doing to looking after yourself. So, as 4 o'clock, welcome to this NHS England and NHS Improvement monthly national community event, all about supporting the health and wellbeing of our NHS people and partners during COVID response. So today we're going to be focusing on the role of the Wellbeing Champions. So before I introduce any more of the session, I'd like to introduce John Drew. John's the Director of Staff Experience and Engagement. Over to you, John.
Thanks, Zoe, and thanks, Elizabeth, too, for continuing to host these great events. I just wanted to share, I guess, a couple of personal perspectives on why I think this role is important. And the main one really is about trust. I think that we're much more likely to believe a person that we trust, and that's usually a person that we already know. So in our home life, that might be a friend, it could be somebody that we've known for a while. And I think the same is absolutely true for the health and wellbeing message, that we can issue all the publicity and guidance we like, and we can say it's some people's full-time job to do this. We can say, as we have done, that this needs to be led from the board and that there's a wellbeing guardian. But in the end, there are around 1.5 million people working in the NHS, and that they're going to need to hear this and feel supported by somebody they know and trust, ideally. So for me, that's really the most important thing about the Wellbeing Champions, is it creates a larger number of people that already have relationships, networks of influence, and they then become, if you like, the sort of the distribution channel. There's a famous story that Coca-Cola's objective was to have every person on the planet drinking Coca-Cola, which I'm not suggesting is a health and well-being message, but what it does show is that their ambition was pretty high, that they wanted to reach every single person. And that means in a lot of countries, they need networks of tiny kiosks and things. They can't rely on supermarkets. So I think that for health and well-being, our absolute objective is that every single person working in the NHS should feel well supported. They should be able to say, in the words of the People Promise, we are safe and healthy. And if we're going to achieve that objective, then a bit like Coca-Cola, we're going to need to think differently about our sort of distribution channel and not rely on occupational health, for example, who play an absolutely crucial role. So that for me is the most important thing about this. I absolutely welcome the role of Wellbeing Champions. And I think the real challenge for us is not just to understand what it is, but how do we go about recruiting and encouraging these people, and ideally identifying, as I say, people that already have quite wide circles and networks of influence, because in the end that will make a bigger difference in reaching every single person in the NHS. So I hope that's helpful as a framing. I think I'm handing back to you now, Zoe, am I?
Yes, thanks ever so much, John, for framing the day. We've got a action-packed video. Oh, sorry, I've just... Sorry, are we okay with the video feed? Yep. Okay, so we've got an action-packed event today, lots and lots of content for you, as you know, but if you are new to us, this is our 25th event, and we're going to be offering ideas, support, knowledge and wisdom to those in a role who are supporting the health and well-being of our staff. We're going to be sharing loads and loads of activities, and they'll be learning from all of us as well. This is our agenda. So in a moment, I'll be handing over to Claire Parker, and she's going to be giving us an overview of the Wellbeing Champions. We've got Michelle, who's going to be talking about steps for wellness champions. And then we're going to be handing over to Professor Sharon Clark, who's going to be talking about the importance of looking after yourself. Nikki's going to follow with some context and events to do with Project M, and we're going to hear about all of the support that's for managers, and then we're going to close with both myself and Elizabeth.
Thank you, Zoe. You've already met me and Zoe. We are your co-facilitators today. And on the team, I'm going to introduce our contributors today. Just introduce them by their name, and when they come to their session, we'll introduce them by their job titles as well. So we've already heard from John Drew. Thank you very much, John. And we also have Claire, Michelle, and Professor Sharon, who will be contributing to today's session. And we also have Nikki, who will be contributing today. Behind the scenes, making sure everything goes as well as possible, we've got our technical host, Paul. On the chat box, we've got Zara. On the YouTube, we've got Ian. And on social media, Neil and Lee. Welcome.
So I thought what we'd do is we'd go to a poll now to ask you a little bit about wellbeing conversations. Paul, could we put the poll up? And if you're in YouTube as well, please do answer in your chat box. We wanted to know a little bit about what you know about wellbeing champions, and you can click more than one on here. So wellbeing champions, number 1 is not on my radar yet. Number 2 is you've heard about it. Number 3, you're fully aware of the role of wellbeing champions. 4 is about I am a wellbeing champion, and number 5 is I've rolled out wellbeing champions in my organisation. It's multiple choice, so you can vote more than once if you might be fully aware and you're a wellbeing champion yourself. If you can't see the chat box for any reason, the poll, then please do answer in the chat box. So they're just coming through at the moment. 1 is not quite on my radar yet, and no doubt it will be after this session. You've heard about it, is number 2. 3 is fully aware. 4, I'm actually a wellbeing champion. And number 5 is I've rolled these out within my organisation. So if we close the poll and we show the results, that would be great. So we've got quite a few people that have heard about them. We've got quite a few that are fully aware. We've got some wellbeing champions on the call today, and we've also got 13 people who have rolled out wellbeing champions in their organisation. Fabulous, thank you. Over to you, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Zoe. Right, so to kick us off, I'm going to introduce Claire Parker. Claire is a senior program lead at NHS England and NHS Improvement, and Claire will share with us information on health and wellbeing champions. Over to you, Claire, and welcome.
Thank you very much, and hopefully colleagues can hear me. It was really helpful to see the poll and see who's heard about champions. Really great to see that there are some champions on the call. So I absolutely will be asking if colleagues want to be case studies, if they are champions or they have already rolled champions out. And for those who haven't heard about it, then that's absolutely fine. And hopefully by the end of this, you'll feel like you know what it is and have some ideas on how you'd like to implement it. As a bit of background, this is a slide that many of you will have seen before, so I'm not going to go through it in masses of detail, but I just wanted to give an update on the National Health and Wellbeing Offer. You'll more than likely know that through the COVID response over the last year and a half, we've been putting in place a range of support offers for NHS colleagues. So as a bit of an idea on figures, we've had over 752,000 website sessions, which is huge. We've had more than 200,000 people download the mental health and wellbeing apps. For the primary care coaching specific offer for primary care colleagues, we've had more than 11,000 sessions booked. So as an idea, there has been a lot of uptake on the national offers, but many of you will know that going forward, we want to focus on how we support organisations to implement cultures of wellbeing and cultures of kindness and compassion. So one of those areas is wellbeing champions. So if we move on to the next slide. The NHS People Plan sets out an ambition to roll out Wellbeing Guardians, which is a board or director level equivalent working within an organisation to encourage the board to think about wellbeing of NHS colleagues. Health and wellbeing champions are the ones that we want to talk about today. So these are colleagues working at any level within the NHS who are there to identify where there might be areas of support needed, but also to actively promote health and wellbeing and encourage colleagues to look after themselves. We're also doing some work on health and wellbeing conversations, which many of you may have been involved in, so thank you if you have. That will also fall into the wellbeing champion works, is all absolutely very interlinked. So as a bit of background for those who don't know, if we move on to the next slide, it outlines what a wellbeing champion is and what the intention is. So I've mentioned it already, but the idea is that a wellbeing champion could be anyone from any role within the NHS. It doesn't have to be anyone that's a certain grade, you don't have to be from a certain background, and you don't have to have experience of certain things. It can simply be somebody that would like to take on the responsibility and that feels confident and able to encourage people to look after wellbeing and help signpost colleagues. What I will say is that many organisations might already have something similar in place. We know that through the pandemic, people rolled out allies, advocates, safety officers, there's been all kinds of titles. So it may be that your organisation already has something in place. So we're not intending to create something completely brand new, but this is where we've got to with the wellbeing champions. If we move on to the next slide. Thank you. So just to go into a bit more detail about who could be a wellbeing champion, as I mentioned, there's absolutely no requirements on NHS grades or bandings. What we're suggesting is that it would make sense if the wellbeing champion was somebody that was particularly interested in wellbeing. So it might be that they're already a network lead, or they're already a mental health first aider, or they might be a staff side rep or some kind of caring role within the NHS. But equally, it could be somebody that's a clinician in a certain area that would particularly like to look after their colleagues and promote wellbeing across their team or across their ward. So these are just recommendations. What I will say is that it is just guidance. You absolutely do not have to tick off everything on here, and you don't have to follow this. If you want to do something different within your organisation, that's absolutely fine. If you're working in primary care, it might be that it would make sense for one of your your social prescribing link workers, for example, to be the champions. So it really is what works best for you and what works best for your organisation. What we are recommending is that wellbeing champions represent the NHS workforce, so that they come from a diverse background, that they are a range of roles, a range of levels of seniority, and that they are there so that people feel comfortable approaching them, because there is no point having a champion that colleagues don't feel able to approach. So it really needs to reflect that NHS workforce. On the next slide, we've just talked through some of the examples of what a health and wellbeing champion can do. We like to think of it as two parts, so being reactive and being active. So actively encouraging colleagues to support other colleagues. I can only apologise for my dog barking in the background. That's how I keep well. I look after my dog. We also encourage that health and wellbeing champions provide a practical role. So if you're on a ward and you notice that colleagues aren't taking a break, is there an opportunity for you to remind colleagues that they should have a break during the working day? Are you able to signpost colleagues to support if you think that they need a break, or they look like they would like support? Or if they approach you and say, I would really like to sign up to a mental health app, please can you help me find one that I can access? So it really is about reactively responding when people come to you, but also actively encouraging colleagues to look after themselves, and also to check in with people. Have those wellbeing conversations, talk to one another and just say, how are you? And actively listen when somebody answers, and actually take in what they're saying and respond to that conversation. The other thing we'd suggest is that as a champion, you keep updated with national and local resources, so you know what is available and you know how to support colleagues with that. If we move on to the next slide. Question that we get asked is, how could I roll this out? So if you're an organisation on the call and you haven't yet rolled out champions, or you're looking at it and you're not really sure where to start, we've had a few ideas come through from colleagues who have already started, and you'll hear more from some examples coming up soon. It might be that your internal HR OD, or if you've got a health and wellbeing team, that they might want to coordinate it. So we've heard of some organisations who ask interested colleagues to fill out an application form, and they manage the process that way through their local HR team. It might be that you, as a team, decide that you will have a daily health and wellbeing champion, and on Monday it's Steve, and on Tuesday is somebody else. So it really is, as I said, what works best for your team and for your organisation. We have to appreciate that across the NHS, we're all working in different situations. Some people are on wards, some people are in hospitals, some people are working within primary care, and colleagues working from home. So we have to be adaptable and think about what works best for us as a team. On the next slide, I've pinched this example from an NHS organisation, so hopefully they don't mind me sharing, but we just kept this in as an example of how to communicate about champions. So it's all very well rolling out champions across the organisation, but how do people know who they are and how to access them, or how to find out who everyone is? So some organisations have developed posters, like this example from one NHS organisation. Some organisations have put the names of colleagues on their internal platform or their intranet site. It might be that you add it to your email signature and say, I am a health and wellbeing champion for this organisation, for example. So there's lots of different things that you could do. And again, internally, if you have internal communications that go out, or if you have team meetings, they can be a great chance to promote it and actually use word of mouth so that colleagues know who they can talk to. And then we're almost to the end of my slides. So if we move on to the next slide. This is the important one, because this is the one that everyone would like to know the answer to. So what national resources are we going to share that will help you on your journey? After today's session, we have a launch event scheduled for the 13th of July. It will be held virtually by Teams, sadly not face-to-face just yet. But the intention is to hold an event for champions, so either colleagues who've been appointed as champions, colleagues who might be thinking about it, or organisations like some of those on this call who haven't yet rolled it out but would like to hear more about it. And the idea is we'll do a 2-hour session, talk through what a champion is, some of the guidance that we've shared today, and then we'll get some case studies in, people to talk about their experience, and then we'll also do some breakout sessions on particular topics that might be an area of question. So 13th of July, 1 till 3 p.m. If you want to hold it in your diary, we absolutely will share the link once it's live. We're also hoping to publish some guidance, very similar to my slides today, just talking through what a champion is and how you can roll it out within your organisation. And the big one that we're doing, which is on there, the third one down, is developing an e-learning module. So we're really keen that champions come from the same space in that they know what their role is, they know what the expectations are, they understand why we're doing it, and they're aware of their remit. We don't want the champions to feel overwhelmed or feel out of their depth. So what we're doing is developing an e-learning module that we will share across the NHS. We will give it to NHS organisations, and you can install it on your LMS system, and it will talk through all of that. So what the champion role is, what the challenges might be, how to safely signpost colleagues, and what sits within your remit as a champion, i.e. you're not necessarily a trained counsellor unless that's your profession. So those kinds of things. So we absolutely, once that's live, we'll share it, and we're hoping, I say optimistically, to have that live and ready by August. It's just underway at the moment. And then we're also looking at doing some supervision sessions for colleagues, just once a month session for champions, optionally attend if they'd like to talk through things like how to keep yourself well, how to consider inclusivity across your organisation, and how to support people with various areas such as menopause. So that's all in development, and we absolutely will share all of that once it's ready. And the last bullet point that I've already mentioned is that if anyone would like to be a case study, please do let us know. My colleague Steph is going to pop her name in the chat box. So if you'd like to be a case study, either a written or digital, then please absolutely do contact us. Now that is the end of the national update, and hopefully that was helpful for colleagues that haven't yet started their journey in the wellbeing conversation space. We also have our team email account if you do want access or want to ask any questions from us, so we'll pop that in the chat box too. I'm actually going to hand over now to Michelle, who is a staff engagement and health and wellbeing practitioner from an NHS trust. They've actually rolled out champions already, and she's going to share her story and share some of the challenges and how she overcame them. So I'll hand over to you now, Michelle.
Oh, thanks, Claire. Yeah, really exciting stuff, and I'm pleased to be able to provide this brief overview really of the Steps to Wellness champions that we've rolled out at Wrightington, Wigan and Lee NHS Trust. I'm just going to go over why we did it, how we did it, where we are now, some of the challenges, and a few top tips. So why it started. We started initially as a quality improvement project in June 2019, so just 2 years ago. And the aim of that was really to improve the knowledge of Steps to Wellness and the health and wellbeing offered to our staff at Wrightington, Wigan and Lee. It was to ensure that internal communications were being cascaded locally and to improve staff morale, to empower, enhance, engage and enable staff, and also encourage wellbeing conversations in local areas, and to promote the end of shift check-in. Can I have the next slide, please? So how we did it, we developed a role descriptor to give a brief overview of what was expected and what the role involved, and an application form along with that, which asked for manager approval just to get that kind of buy-in really from local leaders and things like that, and managers. So we provide training on low-level mental health and supportive conversations, so looking out for early signs and symptoms and checking in with people. We provide an induction and we go over the expectations, the boundaries of the role, what it is, what it isn't, and again, just like Claire said, really, so everybody's singing from that same hymn sheet. We offered quarterly supervision sessions, and we've run a couple of these events already, and again provide some learning at those sessions. It's an opportunity for the network to come together to share what they've been doing in their areas and really celebrate some of the work and the achievements that some of the staff and the various departments have been working on. We use social media platforms, so Twitter, we have a Twitter handle, so feel free to follow us at Steps for Wellness. We've recently set up a Facebook page. We use our internal comms as well, so our newsletter, and we also produced a marketing video which again included all of our champions. So with the help of comms, they put the video together with us, and again that went down a storm really. And it's just a really quick, simple way to really promote and showcase champions across the patch. Could I have the next slide, please? So where we are now, we have over 152 champions trained. We get daily expressions of interest coming in into the Steps to Wellness inbox, and follow the process of sending out the role descriptor, the application form, the training, and so forth. So we recruited 6 wellbeing leads who have been really instrumental in showcasing some of the work that we do, and having those conversations in different teams, departments, areas, and encouraging staff to come on board with the wellbeing and the wellbeing offer. So they've been absolutely vital, really. Our CEO and exec team do bi-weekly wellbeing walkabouts in local areas, and again they've been really well received and valued by staff. You know, that the message is coming right from the top. Our Silas is extremely supportive of the work that we do, and invests his time into us as a team, and also into the staff. So they're absolutely vital, really. We're looking at implementing champions with specialisms now. So so having champions with specialist interests, so those champions who may have a specialist interest in menopause or the BAME network, mental health, international nurses. So they're going off and really creating their network within a network. So they're really taking ownership of the role and running with their ideas, which is absolutely brilliant to see, and we really want to build on that. Can I have the next slide, please, Zoe? Thank you. So, as always, there are challenges, and time is a massive factor. We hear that a lot on the ground level, that we don't have time to be having these check-ins. We don't have time for well-being, and I think the pandemic brought around a real positive change for us in terms of it kind of gave us a real platform to build on, and we've absolutely embraced that, and done so much work to be where we are now, really. It was always perceived that wellbeing was a nice to have, that it was a bit of a fluffy thing to do. It wasn't really essential. But again, people, staff, have recognised that actually it plays such a vital part in your daily working life, and if your staff feel well and feel valued and supported, then in turn that creates better patient care and better outcomes for us as an organisation. So investment, and again, throughout the pandemic, we saw lots and lots of investment and lots of resource thrown into wellbeing, which has been absolutely wonderful. But kind of returning back to that business as usual type thing now, I'm a bit, we're all a bit cautious that actually, we need to keep momentum. We need to carry on building on this platform that we've been given to change the culture, to embed wellbeing as an essential part of daily working life. Okay, can I have the next slide, please? So some of the top tips that I've put on that I've found as we've gone along is having people of influence on board. As I said to you, having our wellbeing leads supporting us as a team has been wonderful to have. Having the exec team on board supporting us has been great. Staff, and I say this, within our team, we're a very small wellbeing team, but we're all extremely passionate about what we do, and we've been a real driving force behind the Wellbeing Champions and the network, and looking at how we can keep people interested, how we can keep building momentum, how we can keep staff engaged, and I think you really need that. Engage at local level, getting out there into the local areas, and speaking to staff, keeping connected with your network. It's really, really important by whatever means you can. So, whether that is through a distribution list, through the social media platform, through Teams chats, through your quarterly engagement events that you do, keep it interesting, and be open-minded really with how teams connect and find their own unique ways of doing things. And probably one of my favourite things throughout the pandemic has been the You OK Hun board that the paediatric emergency care team put together. Just a young group of staff nurses who have the Gemma Collins theme going on, and that really works for them. It gets staff engaged, it gets them thinking about the well-being, it gets them thinking about, well, actually, am I okay? And they're having those conversations. So it's about looking at different ways that people connect and the right way for them. As Claire said, we're a real kind of versatile group of staff across all different areas, and you just really have to tap into what works for each area. Okay, can we have the next slide? So if you would like any further information about it, that really has been a whistle-stop tour. Obviously, there's lots more of a foundation towards at the back of the slides that I've just gone through. I'm happy to share any of the stuff that we have done within our organisation with anybody. So feel free to contact us at Steps for Wellness. Zoe Garnett is the Wellbeing Manager, and her contact details are on here. So yeah, please feel to contact us for any kind of, if you want to share your ideas, or we're happy to. I'm always happy to talk about Wellbeing Champions. And when Claire spoke at the NHS Employers event, I kind of just jumped in there straight away. As soon as the Champions stuff came up, I was like, right, that's me. I want to talk about it. I want to shout it from the treetops, really. So thank you for listening. And just to reiterate what John said earlier on, he framed that really well. And yeah, I want the Coca-Cola in every area as well. So thanks for listening, everyone.
Thank you very much, Michelle. Yes, that Coca-Cola, we have to get that throughout the NHS. I'm really, really pleased to see your presentation. It's just amazing, all the good work happening across NHS organizations up and down the country. Really, really good to see that. Thank you again. I'm now going to introduce Sharon Clark. Sharon Clark works at the Alliance Manchester Business School, University of Manchester, and Sharon will talk to us about managing stress in the workplace, or put on your own mask before helping others with theirs. Over to you, Sharon, and welcome.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. So I've been asked to focus very much on the issue of managing stress and ensuring well-being in the workplace, particularly from the perspective of if you're leading a team and you have responsibility in terms of looking after the welfare of others. It's often a difficult perspective to actually turn that kind of caring light upon yourself. And I've got that quote there in terms of, you know, if you've ever been on an airplane and they're giving you the safety briefing, what they always say is that you must put on your own mask before helping others with theirs. And I think that's really the perspective that we need to take in terms of looking after our own well-being, even if we have the responsibility for looking after the well-being of others. So if we just move to the next slide. So in terms of looking at our own well-being, one of the most important aspects is considering resilience to stress. So in order to be able to cope in stressful environments, it relies on us building our own personal resilience. And it's important to recognize that there are individual differences in the way that that people have that resilience naturally, but it can be built in everybody. So some people are naturally more resilient than others, whereas other people are perhaps naturally less resilient and need more help and support. But it is important that from the a perspective of naturally building up that resilience to stress, is that we are able to face challenges, that we need to be able to cope with difficult situations, and it's actually only through facing adversity that we can build up that resilience. In terms of understanding how we build resilience to stress, there are a whole range of different coping strategies that we use, and often the emphasis is having more proactive, more adaptive coping strategies and managing our emotions effectively. So that we can actively engage with problems, perhaps look at issues in a different way, looking at the kind of positive aspect, the challenge that can be involved in difficult situations on a day-to-day basis. Just move to the next slide. So these coping strategies are really important in terms of breaking the links between dealing with stressful situations, which is what we cope with on a day-to-day basis. So elements of work are always going to be stressful if you're working under time pressure or if you have a high workload. But coping strategies can help break that link between having stress reactions in the short term and in the longer term. So just moving to the next slide and thinking about the type of coping strategies that we use. So as I said, there's often a great deal of emphasis around having these kind of very problem-focused ways of dealing with things. But often, if you're in a situation which is quite difficult to control and the stresses are not something which are kind of within your circle of influence, it's good to recognize that emotion-focused coping also works quite effectively. So if you're in a situation which can't be readily controlled or can't be reevaluated, then emotion-focused coping can help relieve stress symptoms as well. So if we just move to the next slide. Particularly want to focus on buffering against the experience of stress, building up those personal resources, both around coping strategies, but also around making time for recovery. And I think this is particularly important, not only for managing people within a team, but also in terms of managing yourself. So making time for recovery is particularly important. And I think it was interesting to see some of the ideas that people had for looking after themselves. Those were coming out through the initial comments that people were making as they were joining the session. And they demonstrate some of the ways that people use recovery, particularly to help buffer them against experience of stress during the day. So if we move to the next slide. Recovery is particularly important in terms of preventing what can be daily responses to stress, which are completely natural. Everybody who has an experience of a stressful situation will have some kind of stress symptom, some kind of a reaction to it. But those don't necessarily have to lead to longer term issues. And it's really using recovery as a way of breaking that link between feeling stressed on a day-to-day basis and then those actually leading to chronic health issues in the longer term. So recovery, I think, is particularly important, and it's important not only from the perspective of ensuring that members of your team are able to recover effectively, but also that you build in opportunities for recovery for yourself. So just moving to the next slide. So in terms of what we mean by recovery activity, so recovery is best when it involves activities which are completely different from the type of activities that you do during your day-to-day activities at work. So if you're kind of stuck behind a desk or you're looking at a screen all day, then recovery tends to come through doing activities that involve different type of physiological responses. So if you're sitting down, it's best to get up, get out, and do some physical exercise. And I could see that coming through in people's responses at the beginning. So people talked about going cycling or going running, going walking and taking physical exercise. So that would be a really good examples of recovery activity. Another aspect of recovery is particularly in terms of what's called psychological detachment. So this is focusing upon trying to stop thinking about work. And one of the greatest barriers to actually full recovery, even when you're away from work, is actually to stop thinking about work. One of the processes which can actually prevent recovery during time off work is not actually switching off and of ruminating negatively, thinking over and over again about things that went wrong, things that you might have liked to have changed, things where perhaps you feel that you didn't cope very well. So in terms of actually getting that opportunity for recovery, it's important that you kind of are able to switch off completely, and that kind of psychological detachment is a critical process for allowing people to kind of build up their energy resources from one day to the next. So time is needed for that kind of complete recovery. So if we just move to the next slide. One of the important things to focus upon in terms of having that space for recovery is that it needs to happen on a regular basis. I think there's sometimes an idea that you can work for a long period of time in which you never really recover from one day to the next. And that you can get that recovery through having time off over a weekend or days off or through a vacation. But research actually shows that if you're not having that full recovery each day that or after each work session, that you're kind of starting work already where you're not completely kind of recharged your batteries. So if you're already starting on quite a low charge, then that's not going to see you throughout the day, and it kind of accumulates over a period of time. So it's quite critical that you have this opportunity for recovery on a regular basis, and that you do completely switch off and then come back to work the next day fully recovered. And that's often what doesn't happen. So looking at some opportunities to do that throughout the day, if you're not kind of fully recharging when you're getting back into the workplace, the research has shown that you can have these kind of tiny fuel stops throughout the day, and kind of building up your resources through lots of micro breaks. So just moving on to the next slide, which shows what some of these might be, is that what we often what often doesn't happen is that we don't actually take time to kind of stop and reflect on when things have gone well, and that can be a real boost. So there's research which has looked at what they called daily micro interventions, which basically just means, taking a short pit stop and just kind of reflecting in terms of a positive work experience, remembering how that went, how it made you feel, and it can just give you a little boost that yes, things are going well, and that I am making a difference. And you could also do that in terms of addressing a negative work experience as well, remembering it and thinking about how you might have done things in a different way, in terms of a learning opportunity. So in terms of regulating your own energy levels and also looking out for others in the workplace, so that you're monitoring kind of your own energy resources, but also the energy resources of others. So just moving on to the final slide, thinking about some top tips in terms of managing stress. The first one, as I think I started with, is ensuring that you take time to look at the way that you're managing stress in yourself, that you're ensuring your own well-being, and this is for not only your own benefit, but for people around you, recognizing that when we are under pressure, it can change our behavior, and that can then have an impact on other people around us. That we take time to build up our own resilience, and critically that we're making time for our own recovery, and that we do this on a regular basis. It's not something that can be kind of put aside. It needs to be done regularly, so that we're actually able to build that resilience up over time. That we manage our own work in terms of avoiding difficult stressors, and obviously that we do that for our teams as well. It's been a particularly difficult time, and it's all the more important to keep an eye out for those indicators of stress and ill health in others, but equally as important to keep an eye out in terms of ourselves. So I think that is my final slide. Yeah, just my contact details are there if anybody is interested in following up any of the issues highlighted there. Thanks very much for your attention.
Oh, thank you very much, Sharon. Lots and lots of tips there, really, really useful. There's one question in particular that came in the chat box, and if you don't mind answering this, Claire, Sharon, the question is, what is your top tip for psychological detachment and not thinking about work?
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. I think it's having, it's being able to perhaps shift your attention onto something else. So I think often what we do is kind of step away from work, but we do just keep thinking about it. And if you're not able to kind of switch off completely, then having kind of positive thoughts around work, reflecting upon things that have gone well, is a good substitute if you're not able to switch off completely.
Thank you very much, Sharon. Over to you,
top
Zoe.
Tip. Yeah, thank you, Sharon. Great top tips there. And thank you so much for talking there about the individual as well. And that's what we'd asked you to focus on. And I'd seen a message from Guy in the chat box saying that we need to think about organisations as well, and we certainly do. So thank you for your message. I'm now going to hand over to Nikki. So Nikki Squelch is the Head of Engagement for Leadership and Lifelong Learning in the People Directorate in NHS England and Improvement. And Nikki is going to be talking about Project M. So this is all about support for managers and team leaders to help them connect, share and learn together and know about loads and loads of offers. So we've put this at the end of the session today. So you go ahead and you can find out about all of these offers and other things that are going on across the organisations. Over to you, Nikki.
Thanks very much, Zoe. What a information-packed full session. Particularly, there's things that sort of have really resonated with what Sharon has said. And what I love about these sessions is that there's always something new to take away. For me, emotion-focused coping, I think, yeah, I can do some of that. I'm sure I can. But what I will cover is not what I'm getting away from out of this, but also what Project M is. If we could just go to the next slide. So Project M was one of the NHS People Directorate's response to the COVID-19 pandemic, the winter pressures and the vaccination program. This was in real recognition that managers and team leaders could use a helping hand in managing themselves and their teams during the challenging times. And what I really liked is what Sharon sort of set up is that if you are a manager or a team leader, it can be difficult to focus on yourself first. So that really was something that we kept in mind as we started to design and develop this. So we tested and learnt along the way, and it was solidly built in a belief that managers have a whole toolbox of resources, and during times of high stress, just as Sharon said, you can actually revert to type and forget about all the fantastic tools that you have. And through small little interventions that we set up, we're reminding our team leaders and our managers that they've got many, many tools that they can draw on to help them and their teams through challenging times. So one of the things that we immediately went to was our online resources, small bite-sized learning, like edited TED Talks, and they're aiming for under 15 minutes, so really small interventions. And we share these through Twitter, and they go onto our People website. And it just may be interesting that actually in May, the most popular and most visited clip was the Wellbeing Conversations one. So if you haven't visited that, then do that. I'll make sure I can put that in the chat box there. To date, we've had about 15,000 individuals who've accessed these bite-sized resources over 30,000 times. So that tells me it does have some value. The other thing that I've been hearing along the way is, the value of networks. And so social collaboration is a real key way to deliver our Project M ethos. And that is, we engage, listen and respond to the emerging needs of our mid-level leaders, of which, unsurprisingly, recovery and reset, ensuring that all our people feel included, are recurring themes. Fortunately for us, that speaks well to our people plan on caring for our people and building belonging. Although not directly attributed, there is a focus on self-care and team care, and that really does feed in and acknowledge the fact that you can't pour from an empty cup, and you have to put your own gas mask on first, or air mask on first. And we really believe in that is a great way for people to start having the wellbeing conversations and starting with themselves, and then working that with and across their teams. As you can see, maybe or maybe not from depending how big your screen is, the tweet clip, it really is a valuable resource that enables people to connect, learn and support from each other, including peer mentoring and more. We also heard that keeping connected with people in similar roles and to have safe spaces to talk, share ideas and learn from managers and team leaders from across the system was really important. And that's why we also set up a little virtual community on people.nhs.uk, a group that people can join. Before we move to the next slide, I'll just read that out. Project M, this is a great resource and community to join. I've learnt so much and networked with so many like-minded people and have a mentor. Please use this for any aspiring or current leader. So I could kind of pitch it to you as something of value, but it's nicer to hear from someone who's actually using it. So we've evolved into a bit of a pattern of our offering, which I can speak to on the next slide. If I get, that's great. And so what you can see is we have a series of just little events which actually support the people to connect and share, not just in Twitter land, but and beyond that. And this really is us responding to those emerging needs that we've told you about, and actually really trying to embrace the commitment that people have about being compassionate and inclusive leaders. So the first thing that you see there is a tea and talk. And so my personal experience of the tea and talk informal space is that it's really allowed me to really remain self-aware of my own well-being and have honest conversations with peers on what is working for me, what hasn't. And I always feel like I leave these informal sessions feeling a bit more energized, and usually with more than one new idea, but definitely at least one. Our Listen and Learn event in June has changed date to a Friday away from the Thursday, and that's to accommodate the speakers. I want to apologise to anyone who tried to join in May. We had lost our Project M inbox, but normal service has been restored and resumed, thankfully. The format of our Listen and Learns is that we involve leaders and managers to provide a forum to share the practical tips and lessons learnt on what we've tried. And the themes are taken from the thematic analysis of our tweet chats. And June is, interestingly, focusing on how we support our people to move from ruminating, that Sharon Clark mentioned, so that people can let go of work, but also move forward as a team together through the recovery period of 2021. They get recorded, and the challenge is editing them so that you can watch them in your own time. We're still working on how to do that well. But this space is open to anyone in health and care, and it really helps people connect from different disciplines and specialisms, really recognising that a leader in any kind of space, actually there's commonality in that, and you can learn from anyone and build on your own practice and strengths in that. Just to finish off, to date we've accumulated about 500 people who have joined us in these virtual spaces, but actually it's the Twitters that we really have engaged with a lot of people. So if you don't follow us on Twitter, then at NHS Leadership Academy is the way to do it. And to really join into the tweet chats. We had less people involved on the beautiful sunny evening of the 1st of June. But interestingly enough, I thought that the conversations and the shares were a lot deeper, and most people were responding to some of the questions more than once and sharing more than one idea, which was absolutely brilliant. And interestingly, the reach was incredible. We had about 3.9 million impressions. So it really is quite an impressive way to kind of extend reach and network across the NHS and support each other. So if we just go to, so that's what's coming up. Remember them. You've got Project M email address there to join in. And just to finish up, and I think for me, this speaks to a little bit of what I heard at the beginning with John Drew's opening remarks, that the one that resonated me was, your circles of influence. And I heard it again with Michelle Maloney as well. And so my immediate thought when I heard that was how a mentor had helped me understand, unpick, and unlock who my circle of influence was, and how I could utilize them to support me as a manager. Michelle Maloney also shared the tip of keeping momentum by keeping connected with your network. And I would say that Project AM is one way to build and extend your network. I would encourage everyone to look at and think about how different models of connecting with people to support you with your own personal well-being, but to also share top tips around how you can have those all-important well-being conversations, and that this is one way to do it as well. So we've got about 200 people who are using the hashtag to connect with each other and find each other. We are doing some sort of research at the moment to find out, well, we did it in May, to find out how well that is working for people. But what we've noticed is that if you use the hashtag Project AM and ask for help, then there is a community out there who will respond. So don't be afraid to get connected, get involved, and to ultimately stay well. Thank you.
Thanks, Nikki. There's some lovely comments about Project M in the chat box. And there was one from Rebecca who says, I say this every time, but the Project M Twitter chats have really helped me in the moment. So if anybody's thinking, I'd like to get in here and I'd like to have these conversations, but I don't know how to work Twitter, pop it in the chat box and we can help you with that. We're here to support and signpost, so pop it in the chat if you need any help with that.
Zoe, can I just add something to that, just really quickly? Horizons has great guidance on how to do Twitter, which you shared with me. And I was not confident when I did this, 7 months ago, and now I wouldn't live without it.
Thank you, Nikki. So yeah, we have got some guidance written by my colleague who's on the line, Lee Kendall, at the moment. So we'll put some links in the chat box for you as well. What I'd love to ask is a couple of things from you. Please, could you share in the chat box something that you're going to do as a result of this session? And I'm going to ask my colleague Paul to pop a poll up onto the screen as well. So if you can see this poll, here we are. So I'd love to ask, to what extent has today's session been useful in your own role in supporting the health and well-being during and beyond COVID? And if you're on YouTube, please do answer in your YouTube chat as well. So 1 is not helpful, 2, 3, 4 and 5 is very helpful, and we've got the link how to do tweet chats in the chat box as well. So that's just coming through, and it's just closed, and we've got lots of 4s and 5s and a couple of 3s there, so thank you. And if we could close that poll, Paul. I've got a couple of more things just to let you know. We've got another session coming up. It's all going to be about supporting mental health and well-being. So that's the 2nd Wednesday of next month. We're going to be focusing on these mental health hubs. So if you'd like to know a little bit more about those, I'm going to be looking at the individual aspects as well as what's happening at a national and regional level and a local level as well, and what we can do as individuals. So please join us next Wednesday, the 14th of July. We're having a little bit of a refresh of these sessions as well. So if there's anything that you would like to see change, develop, new topics, pop them in the chat box in both YouTube and Zoom for me, and we'll pick those up. So what is it that you'd like to see through these wellbeing events? Because we know lots of people come for their individual wellbeing, but also to share with colleagues, their organisation, their teams as well. So if there's anything that you'd like us to either focus on, or you'd like us to cover or change the format, let us know. We've been doing these for 25 sessions now since this time last year. So if there's more things that you'd like to hear or repeats of topics, then please do please do share in the chat box. So we've had that one. I'm going to leave you with this one. I'm going to take the slides down so I can see you all. Thank you so much. Take care of yourselves and your colleagues and your friends and your neighbours, and we look forward to seeing you next month. Take care. See you soon. Bye, Daniel.